Player-centered approach, autonomy. Good morning, coaches. Today I'm going to be talking through the idea of autonomy and how it sits within a player-centered approach in a team environment. For USSF, the idea of player-centered approach is at the bedrock of how we view the coach-player, coach-team dynamic. Player-centered approach is really comprised of four pieces. It's comprised of, we want reality-based opportunities for players, and those reality-based opportunities are going to offer the second core piece of player-centered approach, which is experiential learning. If they can't experience it within the context of that reality-based environment, it's not going to be as effective. And we also, of course, want to think in terms of holistic idea of player-centered approach. Players as people, not just soccer players, but players as people, recognizing the nature of all the components of a person beyond just a player is vital. And then the last piece, autonomy. Now, when we think of autonomy, oftentimes we're thinking of choice. I get to make a decision. I get to have the opportunity to decide what happens next. And that is really a basic way of thinking of it. But what autonomy does beyond just choice is really important to think about. So when we think of autonomy, we're thinking yes, choice, and that can manifest in a couple of ways in practice. On the lower level autonomy side of that situation, we can think of, hey, today, ladies, we're going to be building out of the back, and those of you building out of the back, would you prefer to have an end zone as your target? Would you prefer to have a target player as your target, or would you prefer to have small goals as your target to work towards? Now, that shows that players do have the opportunity to consider, which is going to be best for us, and they do get that autonomy, that decision making, but it also opens up their attention and their attunement to what exists in the environment. On the middle end of the spectrum, that could, autonomy could look like feedback. Hey, ladies, today we worked on building out of the back. We worked towards end zone. In addition, we also shifted it and worked towards a target player. How did that work? Which was best? How can we kind of consider the nature of what worked best and what didn't work so well, and how can we view that in the context of what the next step looks like? How could that look for the next practice? And again, using that idea of autonomy, not only does it give them choice and give them an idea of what, I get to make a choice, but it also opens their attention towards what works, what doesn't work, and it externalizes how they view the game and the opportunities that exist within the game. And on the far extreme, a lot of that is turning over to the players. Hey, we can do a myriad of different formations. We can do a myriad of different things. How do we feel is going to be successful for us as a team, given the strengths that we have? And really not only focusing on principles from the coach-led, but from the player-led. How can we structure ourselves in formation that's going to best suit us? And all that range of choice from, we could do this or this. What was the feedback like, or how can we think about ourselves and our principles and our structure for the season? All of those exist within that idea of autonomy, but all of them do, even from the minimal idea to the richer idea, externalize players' attention so that they are more likely to see more than they would if it is, you're doing this, you're doing this, you're doing this. Now, how does this sit in the team environment? When we think of this idea of, especially going to the other facet of the player-centered approach, experiential learning through reality-based opportunities, we think about that and having that representative learning environment, having all phases of the game, all moments of the game in play, attack, defense to transition, transition to attack, and transition to defense. With that representative learning environment, there is an inherent element of I must make a decision. If we have a representative learning environment, it's going to offer players the opportunity to go, should I dribble? Should I pass? Should I shoot? Should I go left? Should I go right? All of those opportunities exist within the nature of the game and exist within that representative learning environment. So facilitating that representative learning environment is really core to provide autonomy for players. If we say we're going to do a passing pattern, you're going to pass to that player, they're going to pass to this player and back, that is going to limit their attention to what exists. It's going to limit their ability to solve problems, and it's next going to limit their ability to adapt. By having that representative learning environment, by recognizing what works, what doesn't work, having the autonomy to fail is going to show them this might not be the best thing for me or for our team or for our subgroup, but being able to see that doesn't work is going to change their approach to what does work so that when they get to the game, when they get to that next opponent, they have that range of experiences where they make that decision and they can look at what is next. If this didn't work, what could I do next? And so facilitating that representative learning environment facilitates adaptation, which hits our last piece, motivation. When players get to make decisions, when players get to experience things and have the choice to navigate not only what comes next, but also comes even beyond that, is going to increase their motivation to continue. Because when we think about, players beyond the scope of where we see them, yes, I'm going to have these players for a season or a couple of seasons, or even maybe 3 or 4 if you're in the high school environment like I am. Beyond that, there is something that's going to come after you. We want players to be playing as long as possible. We keep as many players playing as long as possible at as high level as possible. And the more autonomy they have, the more we can open up their eyes to the opportunities that exist using representative learning environment. Challenging them to adapt is going to additionally increase their overall intrinsic motivation because they feel like they have the efficacy, because they do have the ability to make those decisions, to navigate the myriad of experiences that they have. And so when we think of that player-centered approach and autonomy, giving players choices opens up their attention to the possibilities that exist and is going to further develop their adaptation and further develop their motivation. So how can we make sure that we are providing players opportunities to explore autonomy in a team environment? What's going to work best for you? Cheers.